Furina.
So after 2 weeks, we can finally get her past talent level 6, and she feels great. I'm really happy with her.
Yeah, it kind of goes without saying, especially after all the videos I made saying she will be probably the best character in the game. Kind of awkward if it turned out to be bad.
True.
I would have gotten destroyed. I've made like 10 Furina videos saying she's like a top tier unit. She's gonna have little gameplay issues. If I was wrong, it would be over for me.
Yeah, for my day one guide, I said that she's definitely an S tier unit. It's just a question as to whether or not she is the best unit in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel about that, actually?
For me personally, I'm still not sure. If it's not super obvious to me what teams are better and what just have a better Abyss matchup.
When you consider which character is the best, there is no clear answer. There has never been. Like in any meta, there have always been those 3-4 characters that all can be called the best based on subjective reasons. So
Sure.
Furina is probably never going to establish herself as the best character, but she has an argument.
What's up, guys? Today we're going to be having our first podcast episode with two of my favorite Genshin creators, Flip and the Genshin Scientist. We're going to be talking about on my channel, Furina, and how she's impacted the meta and the different characters. But I guess I wanted to start with you guys, if you could introduce yourself and just share kind of the gist behind your content. And obviously your links will all be in the description and pinned comment. Flip, if you want to start.
Okay. I was like, oh, me or TGS, who's starting? But yep, hello, my name is Flip. I make Genshin content, mostly around misconceptions in the community, or just talking about characters I really like, and currently that is Furina. Ignore that voice crack. Now onto TGS.
I'm Genshin Scientist. What's up? I make theory crafting content for illegal stuff for a living, and I pretty much talk about what other content creators think they can talk about, but they could, but I take advantage of that, and that's what I do.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
And they're both. I watch these guys all the time, so definitely go check them out. It's great content.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Jello.
Absolutely. All right.
And when I think of teams where that she makes better, that Nubian does so much damage by himself, that the vape really contributes massively compared to the standard Nubian teams, I think the Furina one is an improvement.
Yeah.
Then I would say every double Hydro team improved a lot.
Yeah.
Those with Yelan, each of them really feels a lot better because Furina is really doing so much more damage than Shincho and allowing Yelan to do more damage as well.
On top of also buffing your own fielder with both Furina and Yelan's buff. So yeah, double Hydro teams I think are the best teams for Furina currently. They feel the best to me.
Especially
whether
with
that's smooth or like on.
yeah, especially with the energy.
Yeah. And you just have a zero, well not zero, but you have a really lower energy requirement Furina, so you don't have to run ER stuns on her or use Favonius like some people.
With regards to having a lot of teams, I guess sure she doesn't have a million optimal teams, but I don't know, I somehow made a guide with 52 teams in it, and
I'm not surprised. Okay,
How many of those would you actually recommend?
I said it in my I had the list in my video. I'd say about 2/3 felt good.
Didn't you make I don't know if it was I saw, didn't you make a Yoimiya, Furina, something team? I forgot who the last character was.
It's kind of funny, you can just put, because it wasn't just about making optimal teams for me. I also just tested I just threw stuff together. I threw double Hydro, Yoimiya, Yelan, Furina, Charlotte. I just threw that together. And it doesn't, it sounds cope, but it works really well.
It works until you can double sword.
Yeah, or freeze against.
That's for sure.
But you can't really double swirl in double Hydro ever. So I don't know about that.
Especially with knowledge.
Depends on the cryo application and the timing, I guess. For example, I played Breezily double Hydro, and you can double swirl by using Breezily's burst, and then right after that you use the swirling ability that has high anemo gauge, and that swirls both Hydro and cryo.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you use characters like Mika, it gets really hard.
Bro, Mika applies no cryo, dude. It's brutal. Because people were talking about Furina and Mika synergy, with Wander, with I forgot Eula, and with Riosly too. And I just don't really like Mika teams that much.
What's the reason?
The reason is because compared to Charlotte, he heals a lot less than my Charlotte, and also he just applies no cryos for if you're going with first half, you have the Pyrolectors. They would want to destroy them with Cryo and Hydro, in which Mika applies no cryo to help with that.
You don't really even like her with Eula, for example.
No, I don't, because my Mika's not C6, and also
Oh, yeah. that makes sense.
I
I
don't
can
know,
see
Charlotte
that
just
then.
feels better there. For now, at least. If I get more cons with Mika, then he'll probably feel better.
I think cryo application in general, like it was really nice last Abyss to beat the Seahorse, but like normally it's like not that important that your Wanderer team has cryo application.
For Wanderer, kind of actually.
Well,
To consistently get like the crit rate buff.
Oh,
to be fair, with Wanderer, for example, it was really never easy to play somebody like Mika or Layla, for example. It was never easy to actually activate that cryo application and let Wanderer get the buff.
I've never seen it.
But you've never seen him get cryo. I'm not surprised, honestly. It's like Wanderer skill is just like whatever. It's just bullshit.
Yeah.
There is a specific rotations that allows you to do that, but in my opinion, it's not worth the hassle in general.
To basically just ignore it. Because it's kind of whatever, I guess.
You don't have to play a cryo unit for Furina to be good for Wanderer, for example, though. Like, you don't have to play Freeze with him.
Yeah.
There are other ways.
Use Bennet and then Jean as well.
Yeah, Jean. Triple anemo with Jean. How do you feel about Furina with a single target healer like Bennet or Cookie?
The team performance is fine, but it's kind of hard. Because then
I feel like managing the HPs becomes really hard if you don't have extreme healing investment on your Bennet or Cookie. And if you're playing a Cookie with Elemental Mastery, then it becomes really restrictive in that sense.
Pretty much a must to have Prototype Amber on your Cookie team if you're using Cookie, I feel.
Yes, I agree. And also I was gonna say, regarding Bennet, like the fact that his zone is limited, you have to take away time from your on-field unit. Because I've been playing double Hydra with Yanfei, and then I just have like 5 seconds of Bennet uptime with Yanfei, and it just doesn't feel that great. Especially after like cycle through Yelan and cycle through Furina.
Yeah, I think the team feels strong, but it is very annoying to play.
Yeah.
And talking about HPs again, I feel like once you get to that point where you have 50% HP all across the board with a single target healer, I feel like it's very hard to get it back. Like, if you mess the rotation up even once, you're done, basically. Bye-bye Furina stacks. Bye-bye elemental skill damage.
Yeah, very easy to just lose a rotation.
Like, the most you can do is that if you have time left after the Abyss Chamber, you can just, like, switch to healing mode on Furina and heal up, like, your party to a decent amount. That's, like, the most you can do.
So, I think the point is that if you start trying Furina on these teams that have a lot of room for mistake, she can easily feel like she's not the best. While if you slot her in on teams that have comfort, like Kazuha and a team-wide healer, she really feels like she's doing a lot, both in terms of damage and buffing.
I was really surprised with how good like Ayaka Charlotte felt.
It feels so good. Yes, I agree.
The other thing
Charlotte
I think there's something to think about is how like that I haven't seen talked about a lot is like how much better Sucrose and Venti feel with Furina teams, like Freeze especially, because you're not losing nearly as much damage bonus from not having Kazuo anymore.
Because like this first Abyss can almost be like the first side of this Abyss is mostly Ventiable.
Yeah.
So Venti actually does feel really good if you're using Charlotte and Furina.
Yeah.
With
and
like Ayaka Ganyu.
Yeah, and like Sucrose, you just don't lose as much damage relatively speaking. Like obviously it's still not as good as Kazuha, but like if someone doesn't have Kazuha or if you want to use Kazuha on the other side, like it's actually viable now.
Yeah, I guess, but I still wouldn't play Sucrose on a Freeze team, for example, because the grouping you lose compared to Venti or Kazuha is just annoying to manage with a character that needs it, such as Ayaka.
Yeah.
And the AoE damage Venti and Kazuha have over her really helps in the first side of the Abyss this time.
Definitely.
Can't you just go like crit Sucrose?
Yep.
Because like you're not gonna get that many double swirls anyway.
I guess that's another issue is how do you double swirl with Sucrose? Because double swirling becomes...
she has a 2-gauge attack.
No,
she doesn't, right?
Yeah, because double swirling is really important in a Freeze team with Furina.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, now it is.
Yeah, you can go first.
Now it is because before Furina, we basically never had a Hydro unit on a top tier Freeze team that actually dealt damage. While now it is.
Yeah, it didn't matter before.
And Venti has the elemental skill that is 2 gauges, so that can help. But the elemental skill is kind of single target, so and you usually use it before the burst. Like bottom line is that with Kazuha you still have more consistent damage boosting in general, I think.
That's fair, yeah. But
I think
at
you
least
you still just don't lose as much.
Yeah, you don't lose as much, and also for like consistency with grouping, because after you use the Kaza skill, like the enemies do degroup a little bit, and that doesn't happen as much with Venti.
Yeah.
In terms of damage, you definitely don't lose that much damage gained actually. But if you miss resistance shred on high for the double sword on several opponents, that can be felt. Although this ability can skew perception a bit, because whenever there are a lot of opponents, Venti just feels like is adding a lot of damage, even though it isn't, just because of how valuable the grouping is.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I'm trying to think of what else. So we've talked about freeze, we've talked about vaporize loosely. Oh yeah, has anyone found to use for Furina's healing mode yet?
Overworld.
I will keep on asking this. Overworld. I don't even like it overworld either, actually, because you just run away from it.
I know it's really cringe, but I use it with Yelan, Raiden, Kazuha in the overworld.
Funnily enough, Yelan hyper carry feels really good.
Okay, I've been trying to figure out what
team?
Yeah, like what's the team?
I've just been using Yelan, Furina, Fischl, and Jean.
Yelan, Furina, Fischl, and
yeah. Then I guess you could also use like Charlotte maybe if you have a C6 for all field cryo.
I just feel like and so you just use Yelan on field.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just like then why would you ever do that instead of using Raiden?
Because let's say you have like Aqua for Yelan, and then she has like really high energy requirements.
In double Hydro with Raiden?
No. Okay, let's ignore Raiden for a second. But Yelan on fielding, she feels really good as an on fielder, and she's also hot.
Yeah, I just feel like I want to use her on field, but I just feel like it's always better to just on field Raiden, especially in that team in particular.
A problem I felt with Furina is probably the fact that managing her burst within the rotation can be it has room for mistakes. It lasts 18 seconds, and your rotation can easily extend past that. Even though you have an idea of a rotation that is 20 seconds long, in practice it can easily last 25 seconds. And while this is an issue technically for every buffer, most other buffers you just activate their skills before the carries goes on field. And since when you actually put the carry on field like Raiden, you don't extend the rotation during that her window. You probably extend it earlier, like during the setup time, because maybe you need to position yourself properly based on what the opponents are. But when Raiden goes on field, for example, you just have 10 seconds where she's going to attack and take advantage of the buffs entirely. While with Furina, since you have this skill, this ability that you use at the start of the rotation, depending on how your rotation goes, you might end up losing some of the damage bonus on your most crucial moment in the rotation for your carry, because it has ended.
I do find, how long does the damage bonus last? I forget.
18 seconds.
18 seconds.
Yeah, because I have found that the damage bonus runs out sometimes when I wish I had it.
Actually, there's sometimes where people think it's run out, but the burst is just like reset because it's the burst uptime is longer than its duration.
Right.
Than its cooldown, I mean. So for me, I found that you can just kind of like buffer Furina's ultimate, like use it later. You can start with her skill, then use her ultimate a bit later in the rotation. That's what you do with Cyno teams especially.
Yeah, that's the baseline. That's the baseline with long rotations. Nuvilet is the same. You use the burst after because the minimum time the rotation imposes you that. But my point is that even, for example, in 20 seconds rotations where you technically want to use the burst at the start because it will technically cover the entire rotation, if you mess up at any point during the setup time or carry time, it's going to run out before your rotation ends in practice. While with other buffers like Bennet or Sarah for Raiden, you use their skills right before Raiden goes on field, and I feel like once you're on field with your carry, there is little room for mistake in that sense, in the sense of the buffs running out before your carry rotation ends. I feel like there is more room for mistake before that in the setup time.
So like if you get hit or have to like move.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fair because other buffers don't really run into that. I feel like
so because you're using the buffer before your setup, there's more room for error. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
In practice, I don't know if I've had a huge issue with that. I'm not sure.
Like Sarah lasts 6 seconds.
But that means like you use Sarah right before you use Raiden. So there's no margin.
Since you use it at the start, you basically use it before figuring out how to strategize against the opponents.
Yeah.
While I think with other buffers, you use their buffs after you figure that out in real time, if this makes sense.
I get what you mean, yeah. Because like, how do I give an example for this. Let's say on the first wave of this abyss,
Mhm.
you can if you have the abyss mage, the healer troll dude, they die very quickly while you're setting up. So then if you go to the wolves and then you're like, oh, I need to like regroup with Kazuha or something.
Yes.
Then Furina's skill is already like draining while you're resetting up, basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good example.
Great
Like,
example.
that's a practical example where you have to spend like 2 or 3 more seconds with Kazuha because you need the extra buff for the other wave and the grouping. And with on other teams, you do that before you use Bennet, for example.
Yeah.
While you already used Furina here.
Yeah.
Like you've won the buff, yeah.
That makes sense.
Sorry, my phone notification on do not disturb.
Since we did talk about Cyno, have you guys tested Cyno with, or talked to people who've tested Cyno, Nahida, Baiju with Furina?
Not yet.
I have.
And what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on the matter are pretty simple, and they are that with Cyno, even if you invest more in his damage, which you could do even before Furina, for example, by investing in his constellations, you still don't fix his primal issues, I guess. Like you do more damage in a single window if the opponent doesn't die, but once that the wave dies and you miss on the Dendro application, your damage still tanks. So regardless of how much you improve your damage during the peak of Cyno, the bottom of Cyno still feels mediocre. Like he has improved with Furina, but he hasn't got fixed. His issues are still the same.
Sure.
Do you think that can ever get fixed though? Because that's just like I'm trying to figure. Is that an issue with Nahida or just an issue because Cyno has very long uptime?
Both. It's just on how he interacts with Nahida, right? Nahida, because normally it would be an issue for. I think we talked about this before TGS. It's like it would be an issue for Nahida, but she is the sort of the better character in this situation, and other characters allow you to swap back into Nahida. Like if you're using a different hyperbloom team, like double hydro.
I actually thought about this thing a lot of times. Is it an Naida problem or Cyno problem? And I guess the answer is since Naida doesn't have this issue with basically every other unit, maybe it is a Cyno problem.
Sure. The one thing I will say though is I hear what you're saying with Cyno's issue, but I think the issue is way less now because you still yes, you don't have the Nahida skill, but you still have some Dendro from Baiju, and Furina does a pretty substantial amount of damage regardless, and a substantial amount of buffing that continues even after the new wave starts. So yes, you lose Nahida's skill, you're gonna get less hyperblooms, but you're still getting some. You're still getting some quicken up time from Baiju, and you're still getting personal damage with Furina. And the fact that she buffs the entire, pretty much his entire rotation and does damage for his entire rotation, in practice, sure, it doesn't fix it all the way, but to me at least it feels way better.
It is true. It is true. What you're saying is true. At a standard level, you're going to feel like you're doing more damage even though the Dendro is off. But I guess if you compare it to other teams who also got better with Furina, it still feels kind of weak.
But I don't know about that though, because the strongest hyperbloom team or quick bloom team before that was with Alhaitham, and Alhaitham Furina, I don't know if that's the best way to play Alhaitham, is it?
It just meant I didn't mean Dendro teams. It just meant teams in general with Furina now.
So you think that so do you think that Furina teams have power crept? Because Hyperbloom was the strongest low investment team, especially Alhaitham Hyperbloom, and it's sort of one of the strongest teams at low to medium investment. So you think that Furina is so strong that
I wouldn't say necessarily power crept the ceiling of the game by that much, but there is this floor that is double hydro now that just feels so strong. People always talked about Shincho and Yelan as this very solid core that could make any team good, but now it's much better. And it's better to an extent that you can basically use any unit in tandem with them, and you'll feel great. So it just makes other teams feel a little bit worse in comparison, in my opinion, and makes these other issues other carries have more evident compared to how strong these lineups are with Furina.
So when you talk about double hydro core with Furina, but who are you using as your team-wide healer?
Well, you either use a driver healer, like the Kokomi team with Kazuha, Furina, and Yelan actually has pretty nice usage rate I've seen, and it works
For
well
sure,
because
but this abyss is very tailored towards hydro.
That's true, but even in theory, like the calculated damage is very high, and the thing is that your hydro energy requirements get so low for Furina and Yelan that you can hyper invest in them with Aqua Simulacra and Furina Signature, and they deal so much damage, like so much damage. And otherwise, you can just use the double hydro core with Jean or any other healer. Yeah, Noel, but Noel as well. But you can use team-wide healers and a carry, and Furina just brought more options, more team options that feel great. So the teams that don't feel great in certain situations feel worse in comparison now, to me.
I guess to be honest, I haven't tested like a super highly invested version of that team. Yeah, my Kokomi isn't highly invested. Can you really play, like, I guess
it's not about Kokomi really.
But if you've got C0, Yelan, can you really get away with damaging weapons on both Yelan and Furina? Like, I don't know if you have enough energy there.
You should
run an ER weapon on Furina.
Sorry?
You probably need to still run an ER weapon on Furina, and then if you're using Aqua, maybe Yelan gets an ER sand. Because it's not like their energy requirements just like disappear.
Yeah.
If you use Favonius and Kazuha on this team, since you don't have a carry that feels a lot of field time, you can use his skill multiple time in rotation and proc the Favonius like 2 or 3 times even, and that helps a lot.
Right.
But in general, you have 3 Hydro, and that is going to lower Yelan's energy requirements to something like 150 or lower, even without Constellation 1. And you can even use 2 elemental skills rotation here with her.
But isn't the elemental skill cooldown 10 seconds?
Yeah, but there are ways to
So
structure the rotation, and so that you can use to.
Right.
This is going to be like a very weird tangent, but why do people do E to Q on Yelan?
Sorry, didn't hear that.
E to Q?
Very weird tangent, but why do people use Yelan's skill before using her burst?
Reduce.
It's all a matter of rotation, I think. Like it's faster, it's a bit faster. While if you use burst and 1 E, it can be a bit slower. But technically the second is better. But if you have a very tight rotation, then probably skill burst will allow you to execute it faster.
I think also like depending on the team, if you're not swirling hydro or if you're not vaping her hit, then it's not going to matter all that much. So
yeah,
like if you
it's just
like because often you'll swirl after
like an extra wave.
Yeah. Or if people haven't leveled up her normal attack, then you can't fill that gap with anything.
That's fair. But yeah, like I just like the fact you get an additional wave. It feels better.
Definitely, it definitely is better.
And it does like actually translate to more damage if you're not using a really strict rotation.
It does, but it might not matter as much if you're facing multiple opponents. Like if it's against a boss, then the additional single target damage you get can matter. Yes, especially if you have to clear a phase like against the Magu Kenki. So any damage you can get to start matters. But if you're facing multiple opponents, and it might not matter as much in the big picture as you might expect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I guess before we move on to the next topic, let me just look through the character list. So with Furina, we'll talk about Novelette later. We can talk about Risley later since we're talking about some carries. Because I feel like we've been on my topic for a long time, which makes sense because Furina is a big topic.
It's been 35 minutes. That's within time, I guess.
Yeah, it's okay. Because I'll be editing out some of the silence. But so for other characters that have improved, what do we think of Dehya lately?
Dehya.
She's still bad. She's still bad. I don't think the Dehya carry teams with Furina are that good enough to like warrant Dehya being used as it.
Yeah.
It is not a big of an improvement, really.
What about with Novelette, supporting Novelette? What do we think of this?
Oh, I actually like that.
Dehya vape with burning, you mean?
Yeah. So what's the team? What's the best?
Vape.
What's the team nowadays? It's Dehya, Nahida,
Novelette, and Furina. Wait, no, you can't. Can you use Furina?
No, you can't. I think it works. Not sure though.
Would you not just use Kaza.
Like with Xiangling, it can work, like because she has more pyro. But with Dehya, I don't know. Anyway, I like the composition, but I like it less for me because I have Constellation one with Numilet, so I don't really need the defensive utility Dehya brings on my account. But I can see why people would use it.
But what's the team?
The only vape team I tried is the Xiangling, Kazuha, Nahida, Numilet.
Oh, okay.
Oh my, that's actually another thing. Like,
So you'd use Dehya,
Furina
Nahida, Kazuha, Novelet if you wanted to do that with Dehya. Sorry, go ahead.
Actually, don't even have a Dehya.
Sorry?
What?
Actually, don't even have a Dehya, so I can... so
Yeah, I tested this team, but I actually just don't have the character.
That's awesome.
I was gonna say Vape Furina unironically feels really good.
I know.
reverse vape.
Yes, but no, forward vape.
Forward vape. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
super,
for example,
like-
if you play Klee on field,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Also,
yes, or Lini.
Sucrose. I also really liked Sucrose National with Furina.
Yeah, I use Kaza National just so I can get like the maximum pyro damage and see like Crabaletta hitting like 100k.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's crazy.
but that's the thing with Furina actually. Like her damage is so relevant to
It is.
what she brings to the table, and
Yeah.
people underestimated
Yes.
that. People
Yes.
thought her as a buffer first and foremost,
Yeah.
and she kind of is. But the damage is so relevant that if you don't invest properly on your Furina builds and talent in that sense, you're not going to feel like she's that strong. But she is if you actually build her properly.
I think that is the craziest part about Furina is that she is as good a buffer as basically anyone, while also being as good of an off-field damage dealer as basically anyone. So she
It's like if you,
she role consolidates two characters into one, but then she requires you to have a healer, so she also unconsolidates a role to balance her. But when you can find the team that also fits the healer bill without losing too much otherwise, it's like I shudder to see what a future 5-star healer made to work with Furina would do to her teams.
But yeah, I was gonna say like Furina makes healers relevant because like, a lot of healers have like some good traits that you can't really expand on, because if you bring a healer into your team over like what Bennet, like goodbye to your damage.
Yeah.
But the thing with Furina is that she now gives you that damage bonus. So basically having a healer now also buffs you.
Yeah.
Which is why it's not as much of a deficit, and in some cases it's like an improvement.
Yeah.
That's what I think is so good about her.
Yeah, she's definitely extremely strong, and we only get stronger with time as
I
people
agree.
learn about how to use her better, and more characters get released specifically for her.
And then we can also level up our talents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So university
Yeah, I
sucks.
think a big part of what made me so impressed with her is that I got to test on the media server, so I tested 9-9 talent right away.
Well,
So yeah, that made it.
Low
she's-
balance is the Wanderer classic actually. So
Yes.
when Wanderer came out,
Yes.
and he is a hyper carry that deals 90% of the team damage, and people only had him at like level 6 talents.
Yeah.
And this character is so shit, it's worse than Yanfei. And if you have a character dealing 90% of the team damage and you invest,
And a brand
They
new
were
artifact set.
No, they were actually cooking because Wanderer is like so insignificantly worse than Yanfei, the best carry in the game.
sure. But, yeah. Build your characters, people. Build them.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Wanderer, I really like Wanderer with Furina.
I wish I could say the same, but my Farzan is in C6 and I just died to the two spears on Chamber 1.
What team are you trying with Wanderer, Jello?
I did Wanderer. I did a lot of things, but I did Wanderer. The one that was the most impressive to me, it was Last Abyss, and so I haven't tried this Abyss, but it was Wanderer, Furina, Bennet, Farzan.
Farzan.
Yeah. So it's a little bit weird.
HP wise, how do you feel about it?
I mean, you're a bit living on the edge, but it does so much freaking damage. It's just so strong.
Yeah, the first few rotations, it should be just Wanderer with Yelan, but better.
Yeah. Here's the meta TGS. You play during a healing card Abyss, so then you just clear the Abyss so fast, and then you get a healing card that can heal your team for 25%.
Unironically,
Do it
you know
again,
this
and then you get the burst healing card for the final chamber, and you just win.
Yeah, the
you know
healing
this
cards got a
HP
lot
card?
better.
Yeah, the healing when you use your burst cards, they're like top tier now.
Yeah, but I guess since there are teams with Furina that use a team-wide healer, can also use the more offensive cards. I guess
Sure.
it's hard to gauge in that sense.
I also did play it with Charlotte as like a freeze variant for Wanderer, and I would have done Mika, but you needed the cryo for the seahorse when I tested it. That was really good too. Very nice. I think freeze Wanderer is not bad actually.
Good.
Yeah, good. It's actually good, which is
Wait,
kind of
if you
cool.
use Charlotte with sorry,
Nope, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say if you use Charlotte with TTDS, isn't she just like better than Mika there?
Yeah, but getting TTS on your Charlotte would require an absurd amount of ER substat. Like a crazy, like you would need, that's like hyper investing into Charlotte. Like that's like thousands of resin into Charlotte to get that much
Right.
ER.
Yeah. Even with
Also, did you see that the
energy
C4
constellation.
apparently no, but the C4 was bugged TGS. So when I tested the C4, it didn't actually do anything because it was bugged to not work at all. Did you see that? Did you see that the C4 of Charlotte was bugged?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I said even with the C4,
Okay.
you can use it.
Gotcha.
Okay. I think that's
Um,
it for the topic.
I think so. Oh, one more final thing, I guess, is do you think, like, when I used her with Hu Tao as solo hydro, like, I know it's not good, right? But at the same time, it was still pretty good.
I tested all her like how her vape timings on every character.
Yeah.
You can make it work, but
But-
just use double hydro.
I just feel, yeah, just use double hydro. But even if she ends up vaping, like if Furina ends up vaping, it's like still so much damage.
Yeah.
But is that frequent? Like Furina vaping on without teams? Like
Because I tested it. If you're doing N2C, you need Kazua's Hydro Infusion. Otherwise, you'll lose it. Like, not even Overvape is enough. Overvape, you still lose gauge. So you basically just need Kazua's Hydro Infusion as a safety net. And
But
then
if you
towards
get-
the tail end of your rotations, you can run out, which sucks. So
you definitely need the Kazuha burst to vape with Utao. But my question was if Furina can vape at any point herself within the team if you don't use Kazuha burst. Like I haven't tried that.
if you don't use Kazua's Burst, she will vape you.
Or if
Okay.
Kazu's burst is infused with pyro.
Yeah, that's for sure. But how do you do that?
Bennett circle.
I guess you play Bennet. Okay.
Because you still double swirl just in case, and then no matter what happens, this is the thing, you just double swirl just in case, and then you just win regardless, whether she's vaping or Kazu's vaping or Furina's vaping, it doesn't matter, you just win regardless.
Pretty much, yeah.
So anyways, we can leave Furina now.
Are they using
Go ahead.
Kazuha skill and burst after Bennet makes you lose a lot of uptime of the burst when with Hutao?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But if you want to keep watching the conversation, go check out Flip and the Genshin Scientists video. We continue our podcast on both of those channels.